which leads to the second point, the question. We're gonna notice they're gonna ask Jesus a trick question. Now, the question looks innocent, but that's because we're Western American Christians 2,000 years removed from the culture. So when Jesus gets the question, it is couched in being buttered up, right? I mean, basically what they say is, Jesus, listen, we know you're a rabbi unlike any other rabbi. We've never heard anybody teach like you. And you always teach the truth. You don't care about who's in your audience. You're not swayed or manipulated by someone's outward appearance. It reminds me when I was a teenager, I used to butter my mom up before, and my mom's probably watching, but I used to butter my mom up before asking her for something, right? Whether it was baseball cards or comic books or Jordans, whatever I wanted the kid. I'd say, Mom, you're the greatest mother a boy could ever want. You provide for me. You're stern when I need it, maybe too much, but that's okay, you know, and you are kind. And she'd say, Robbie, knock it off. What do you want, right? Everybody's mom did that. You know what I realized as I was preparing this week? I still do that to kids. How many wives would say amen to the husband? They want new golf clubs. They want new boats. They want, you know, whatever it is. So what they're doing is they're softening Jesus up, right? They're basically saying, Jesus, we know you're a good man. We know you're going to tell us the truth. So let me ask you, should we pay as Jews what was called the poll tax to Caesar? Should we pay this tax to Caesar? Now, to understand what they're asking, we have to take the word tax apart. So if you look in the Bible, it says, do we pay taxes? That word tax is a Greek word that was actually transliterated or borrowed from Latin, and it's the word census. In Greek, you can read it, it looks like census. And it referred to the once-a-year poll tax that every Jewish man representing a family had to pay. And all the Jews had to pay it back then. There was no option here. Every male in Judea had to give it. Now, you had to give it a certain way. Rome printed certain coins with the head of Caesar on one side and Caesar's mother, Livia, on the backside, and they had to present it to Rome, particularly to the treasury. And the problem was, guess how much money in today's terms it cost to pay this tax? An entire day's work. So you work at Starbucks as a barista, you make a sale, you sell a home. That day's work, whatever it is, you had to give over. So it's safe to say that people were not happy about paying the tax, right? They were not too pleased with the tax. Now, the thing about the tax is, in order to understand why it's such a big deal, you have to go back to the year 6 AD. And I just want you to journey for just a moment, short history lesson to understand it. Some of you saying school's out. I get it, but just short, okay? 6 AD, Jesus is about 8 years old, okay? I think he was born in 3 or 4 possibly, so he's 8 or 9 years old at the time. At that time, when Jesus is a young boy, there is a man who's a Jew by the name of Judas the Galilean. All this is gonna come full circle, so just stay with me. Judas the Galilean, who rises up and claims that he is tired of the Roman oppression. He claims to be a Messiah-like figure and basically says, we are not paying taxes anymore to Rome, we are done. And so he gets a bunch of brothers to come behind him because he didn't want to pay the taxes, and neither did they. And so they rise up and they say, hey, we're gonna go after Rome. We are sick of it. Now, it's on 2 bases. Number 1 is we don't wanna pay tax. But number 2 is, here's the problem. The coin had the image of Caesar, which according to their Bible was what? Idolatry, paganism, if you will. So basically what he says is, we're not gonna pay this anymore, and he leads a revolt. Well, Rome steps in and Rome says, no, we're gonna defuse this quick. They killed Judas the Galilean and all his followers. Now, some of you are saying, I've never heard this before. Guess where that story is found? Oh, by the way, here's a picture. And I found this online, and then Robert pointed out right in the middle. Is that an American flag in the... AI, I don't know. They're taking over the world, folks. Y'all don't know. No, so anyway, this is just a visual. This is not the actual picture, okay? But this is a visual, okay? Where in the book of Acts do we find this revolt and ultimate downfall? Acts chapter what? Go back and look it up. Acts chapter 5. When Gamaliel, who's Paul's mentor, says, well, you guys remember that guy, Judas the Galilean. If these guys are of God, you won't be able to stop it. But if they're not of God, what? It'll end. That's the line, okay? So Judas the Galilean is destroyed in 6 AD, but the sentiment is still there. The mindset is still there. And so the mindset makes its way all the way down to Jesus' day. And the people hate to pay tax. In fact, a whole group started based on their hatred of taxation in Rome. Guess what the name of the group is? The Zealots. All gonna come full circle, watch this. So the Zealots come on the scene. They're so popular, Jesus decides that one of the 12 choice guys to follow him, he would select from this movement. You know the name of the guy? Simon the Zealot. So everybody's, and it just means they're zealous for nationalism. They're zealous for taking back the temple. Well, ultimately, this leads to the destruction of the temple. In AD 66, so we're a couple years after Jesus' death, another riot starts. The people gather together and they say, it's over, we're done paying taxes again. And it's the pushback of paying taxes to Rome, which ultimately leads, don't miss this, to the destruction of the Jews' prized possession, the temple. So all that to say, they hated paying tax. They probably were Americans, right? Just like, who likes paying tax, right? But the reality is that they didn't want to pay taxes. And so they asked Jesus a question that he can't win.